Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look in this training module at understanding what we need to do in order to update our calibration file based around running a return style fuel system on our low pressure fuel pump control. So this is going to be for the port injection side of things. This is if we want to go and get rid of the returnless system so we can make more power with fuels like ethanol in a forced induction application. This is going to be based around using a Ford fuel system. This is a popular upgrade for the Gen 3s as a drop-in solution for a return style system. Now there's a couple different options with the 4 fuel systems. There's going to be ones where they run dual regulators. One regulator regulates the pressure to the high pressure pump and one regulates the pressure going into the port injectors on the low pressure side of things. There's also alternatives where they feed both systems from a single regulator. So we set one pressure from one regulator for both control side. And that's essentially what we have on a stock returnless system. Everything operates as one single system. This is going to be taking a look in this tutorial, kind of the worst case scenario. We're going to have the dual regulators and you're setting everything for that particular operation and making sure you've accounted for it in your calibration file. This is also going to assume that you're running different port fuel injectors. So we're going to look at running a popular upgrade, an ID 1050X injector, what we need to do with the injector data as well, because that needs to be manipulated based on what you're trying to do in the fuel system. So I'm going to give you 2 different alternate approaches and what I personally use when I'm in this situation. Let's jump in. Let's open up a stock file. Let's go to File, Open. Let's go to Desktop, and let's go to our Coyote Course folder. Let's jump into our Sample Calibration subfolder. And let's go down here and open up a stock file. Here's a 2021 Mustang GT manual. Now in this file, we're going to head right over here into our fuel system tab and talk about a few things. So we know here under our fuel pressure area, we're going to have our high pressure desired. This is what we want to have for high pressure pump control. We have our low pressure desired. This is what we're really after for programming here because we're changing out the low pressure lift pump control. And we want to update this and update some things. We also have over here under fuel pump, some of the other data information here that can also be updated. Usually we don't need to touch a lot to account for running the 4 fuel system, but we do want to be specific of how we're setting this up. Let's jump in here and take a look and talk about a few things. First off, we go to fuel pressure. We need to decide what we're going to be setting our fuel pressure regulators at, feeding the high pressure pump and then also feeding the low pressure pump. So in this situation, I would set the high pressure pump to 400 kPa or 58 PSI of static pressure. The fuel pressure regulator that's feeding the high pressure pump does not get a vacuum reference, so it's atmospheric referenced. Then the fuel pressure regulator, the secondary pressure regulator in the 4 system, that's going to be feeding the low pressure rails. I would set that to 58 PSI or 400 kPa. Now, when you set that, you have to do it with the engine running and the vacuum line off of the regulator. This gives you true reference or base pressure. We need to know what the true base pressure is going to be because when we enter our injector data in, we have to make sure that it's based around that. It's very important that we keep track of that. So 58 PSI, equivalent of 400 kPa worth of base pressure. Now, once you've set the pressure, you want to run your vacuum line. That's going to be vacuum in pressure and boost pressure referenced. That's going to make sure that that base pressure stays the same as your engine's operating at vacuum or under full throttle. It's really where it's going to give us that enhanced or further fuel flow rate out of our pump when we're in boost. This gives us a pretty large step in what we can get out of our fuel system, going from returnless going to return style. Now, the next thing we want to do is update a few things. Under our low pressure desired, anything that we have a actual desired target pressure, we want to set that to whatever our pressure is within our low pressure system on the regulators. I've set both of them to 400 kPa or 58 PSI. We want to go ahead and then set our heat soak to 58, our DI inlet to 58. Now, if your regulator is set on your direct injection high pressure pump feeding that pump to something other than 58, you'd have to go and set it here. So if you set that to 65 pounds of pressure, that's what you'd put in here. But I'm going to keep them all the same, so 58 is going to enter in here. The port fuel injection demand, I'm going to set this to 58 which is again equivalent of 400 kPa. And then the PFI bullying prevention, we're going to set this also to 58. So that's easy enough. We've set all these tables here to values of 58. Then under our fuel pump area here, we're going to go to the max voltage and just set this to 15 and update the last desired column here to 15. Now this shouldn't make any difference because we're bypassing essentially any of the programming logic in here. I do want to keep the secondary monitor enabled, which allows us to keep track of and having that safety kind of checksum that goes on in the background. But what we will need to do is jump over into our DTC. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.